The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, my name is Beverly Bolnick, National Sales Manager at NMP, and I would like to welcome you to National Mortgage Professional Magazine's webinar titled Winning with Realtors, How to Generate More Leads Using the Power Partner Development System, sponsored and presented by Maximum Acceleration. I would like to thank all of our webinar attendees and for taking time out of their busy day to view this webinar. I would like to thank the sponsor of the webinar, Maximum Acceleration. Conducting today's webinar is Erik, Head Coach and CEO for Maximum Acceleration, a coaching system designed to help loan originators build their businesses by implementing proven core strategies. As one of the mortgage industry's leading business coaches, Erik Janeczko and his team have helped thousands of loan originators improve the way they do business and increase their loan volume. Erik has served the mortgage industry since 1996 with great success in origination management, wholesale, training, and coaching. He has appeared on stage at top mortgage industry events and played an integral part in designing the Loan Toolbox business planning tool. Unfortunately, our other presenter, Greg Frost, has had an emergency and was not able to be here today, so Erik will be doing our entire presentation. If you have questions during the webinar, please be sure to send them via the Questions tab on your GoToWebinar console, and we will try to answer as many questions as possible at the end of the webinar. If we don't get to your question, we will definitely have someone from Maximum Acceleration follow up with you in the next few days. And also, we will be having Maximum Acceleration send you out a copy of the recording of the webinar, so that way you will be able to view it again if you want to see any of the portions of it again. Before we get started, we're going to be doing a poll question here. So I'm going to launch the first poll question on the screen right now. And the first question is, have you been finding it increasingly more difficult to get real estate agents to take your calls lately? And the options are yes, it has been a lot more difficult. Yes, it has been somewhat more difficult. It has been equally as difficult as it has been in the past. No, it has been somewhat less difficult, or no, it has been a lot less difficult. So if you could vote right now, I will give you a few seconds to vote, and then I'm going to share the results. Okay, I'm going to close it up now, and I'm going to share the results. So actually, a lot of people, I guess, have said it has been equally as difficult. 43% of you said that. 24% said it has been a lot more difficult. 24% said it has been somewhat more difficult. 8% said somewhat less difficult, and 2% said it's been a lot less difficult. Well, this webinar definitely has the right audience. We're going to show you some great tools to be able to help you with that. All right, we're going to launch one more question before we get started. And that question is, what do real estate agents say is their biggest challenge to business growth? And the options are not enough inventory, not getting deals closed on time, deals that fall apart unexpectedly, and not enough referral business. If you can answer now, I'll give you a few seconds to vote on that one. Okay, I'm going to close this one up. And I'm going to share the results with you. 39% of you said not enough inventory. 11% of you said not getting deals closed on time. 23% said deals that fall apart unexpectedly. And 28% said not enough referral business. And with that, I'm going to turn things over to Erik Janeczko, our presenter today.
All right, folks, well, welcome, and thank you for the honor to be able to work with you today. Like I said, unfortunately, Greg won't be able to join us today. He has had some circumstances come up where he's in for a medical procedure today, and we'll be back again in earlier next week a couple more times. So don't know more detail than that, other than it came up at the very last minute here. And so, you know, all our hopes and thoughts and prayers are with him as far as it, hopefully it's not something major, and that it's something he'll be able to recover from quickly, even though it was of a somewhat urgent nature. One of the things that I enjoy about working with Greg, and one of the things that has become a significant part of why I have done what I do in how I run Maximum Acceleration in the business that we operate, is because of the fact that I learned a lot from Greg in my early days in my career. Through his mentorship and leadership, and through some of the training and development I had access to in those earliest days of my career, I was able to build a very successful mortgage practice very early on. When I left retail production in August of 2002, I had closed over 237 purchase transactions the previous 12 months, and a lot of it was based on stuff I had learned from Greg and many of the other coaches and mentors that I'd had the privilege and honor of working with over the years. And one of the things we are constantly struggling with as originators is fighting the commodity battle, and how do we really create value? And when it comes to approaching business development partners like realtors, the challenge is that we're kind of stuck in a typecast mode, or sometimes they pigeonhole us into this role of looking at us as nothing more than a vendor, same as the guy who runs the hot dog cart down on the corner that you go to for a meal, and you maybe get to know him a little bit along the way because he's there all the time, but you're really not looking for a long-term relationship with him. You certainly wouldn't partner with him or anything like that. So how do we become more valuable? How do we open a door that is sometimes slammed in our face? And the challenge with most originators is we try and find ways of creating more value. Well, but we don't necessarily always think about or go deep into understanding what value really is and how it plays out. I mean, the practical reality is, if you looked at value as a mathematical equation, value equals benefit minus cost. So when it comes to promoting ourselves to real estate agents and encouraging them to work with us as opposed to working with our competitors, there's one or two ways that we can change that equation. One is we can increase our benefit. In other words, we can become a better asset or resource for those agents, or we can compete the same way that pretty much all the other loan officers out there try and compete, which is based on price or service. And one of the ways that over the years we used to be able to raise our value is if we were substantially better at getting a loan closed than the majority of the other originators in the space. But the challenge is that we're an industry of veterans these days. We are the survivors that have made it through the challenges and difficulties of 08 and 09 and some of those kind of things. And the challenge is, though, if 99 out of 100 loan officers promise great service and 98 out of 99 fail to deliver it, have we increased our value or lowered it by associating ourselves with everyone else who's pretty much promising all the same stuff? So one of the things that we've got to focus on and get better at is how do we change that equation? In other words, how do we compete? How do we raise our benefit instead of lowering our cost, right, to win the equation and win that partnership? Well, there's two ways to look at competing. I mean, again, we can talk about being the vendor or the advisor. Use this for an example, okay? Let's say we've got $10,000 of stock that we want to invest, okay? And we decide we're going to buy $100 of a share, $100 a share of a company that's worth $100 a share, 100 shares, okay? We can go to E-Trade. We can open that account. We can put our money in, we'll pay $8 a trade, and we can buy, 100 shares of a wide variety of companies. Which company should we put our money into becomes our responsibility, and the value of return or loss we achieve in that investment is dependent on our skill and ability to pick the right company. Whereas on the other hand, we could go to a Merrill Lynch advisor and we could, invest that money with their advice and guidance. And likelihood is, instead of paying $8 to $10 a trade, we'll pay upwards of $150 a trade. So why on earth would I be willing to pay 10 to 15 times more for the same investment of what might likely be the same company? Well, the obvious answer is I have a higher probability of a positive return on my investment and a lower likelihood of a loss on my investment by the value of that individual's advice, and that's why I'm willing to spend that much more for that one transaction. But it's still really sort of a transactional based level. For example, I mean, at the end of the day, it's based on the value of that one deal, right? But what if that advisor asks me to take a look at the bigger, longer-term financial strategy, and he does a deeper look at my financials and realizes that stock investing may not be the best method for me based on my risk profile and where I am from an asset standpoint. And he suggests an alternative look at maybe we should put that $10,000 into something that's a little more stable, has a little bit lower rate of return potential, but doesn't have as much risk of principal loss. And we'll get it growing and adding more into it over time, and then 3 to 5 years from now, then we can take what would be then an appropriate percentage of the portfolio and invest it in more aggressive stocks. See, now he's transformed that relationship of one where he's no longer a vendor, he is a true asset and advisor long term. So today's event is all about how do we become the advisor level of value to our business partners like realtors. How do we transform that relationship from one of where they see us as a vendor into one as where they see us as a key partner, an asset, and an advisor in helping them grow their business and make a bigger difference. So the next question becomes, okay, why a partner? Why work with real estate agents at all as opposed to just going out and marketing, doing other purchase lead generation activities that are consumer direct marketing? Well, what's the value of the return? I mean, think about it from this perspective. There's an ancient proverb that says, plans fail where there is no counsel, but they succeed when counselors are many. Another way to think about it is, do we know what we don't know? How can we learn it if we don't ask somebody who knows? The other element of this becomes, what is the potential of a partnership? And by the way, I guess I should clarify one other quick thing. What do I really talk about when I talk about partnership? And what is a true partnership look like versus a business relationship, and what's the dynamic? Well, one of the best ways I've ever found to describe it is to look at an example of what was known as the horsepower studies. When I was a kid, I grew up near St. Louis, and every Thanksgiving Day parade, we had these Clydesdale horses coming through, the Budweiser. They're just fascinating animals. They are massive in size and strength, and so I studied them when I was in high school. I did a research project for an English class. What I found out is I came across a study that had been done in the late 1800s where a group of scientists were trying to identify the amount of weight that a horse could pull. Well, what they figured out is that one horse could pull about 12,000 pounds of weight. They were doing weight sled testing is what it came down to. So if you had two horses working, you would expect at least double the results, right? The challenge was when the scientists scaled up the study, they ran into a little bit of difficulty. When they hitched two horses together pulling on the same load, the results were dramatically more. The actual record is over 104,000 pounds of pull, or roughly 8 times the results of one pulling by himself. Now, we'll ask the question about how that works in just a minute, but let's take a look at what it would mean in the world of a loan officer and realtor. So let's say we've got our typical realtor, he's generating 10 to 15 leads a month. We've got our typical loan officer, he's generating 10 to 15 leads a month. It's an aggregate of about 30 leads. If they were able to effectively hand off each of those leads exclusively to each other, you would expect there to be about 30 lead potential. But if you had the two teamed up working together for a common goal, what's the potential? Well, if it's 8 times results, you'd be talking roughly 120 leads. Now, some of you may be thinking I'm totally nuts to say that a loan officer and a realtor together could generate 120 leads a month. And you might be right, but suspend your disbelief for just a moment and ask the question, if it was possible, what would it look like? And that's what we're going to talk about the rest of the time that I have with you today. One of the issues or challenges with that is, okay, going back to the horsepower situation, the horses working in tandem, what's in play? How does that 104,000 pounds of pull happen? Well, there's a lot of physics and geometry and stuff that's way above my knowledge level or pay grade from an engineering perspective. But one of the key concepts that's at play in that situation is a concept called leverage. You guys have all heard this term used in business. In fact, it's almost a bit of a cliche. It's been ignored because we've heard it so many hundreds of times. Of course, the thing you have to be careful about is, can you afford to dismiss that what you hear all the time, because would it have ever been repeated often enough to be ignored if it weren't fundamentally true? Well, let's go back to some of the base level elements of this, okay? A lever is a simple machine. It's got a bar and a pivot point, right? You know, if that pivot point is right in the middle, I can push down with 100 pounds of force over here, and I only get 100 pounds of lift over here. As a result, it's not really doing me any good because it's not being applied properly. But all of a sudden, if I shift that pivot point a few feet to one side, all of a sudden I'm getting a 5-to-1 mechanical advantage. 100 pounds of force over here gives me 1,000 pounds of lift over here. So the next question becomes, what are the things we can do in developing real estate partnerships or business development partnerships with realtors that produce that kind of potential result? Well, there's a couple of key elements to think about. One is, do we want to shift from the taking side of the relationship to the giving side of the relationship? I mean, I've changed my language slightly. By the way, you've heard me refer to a couple of different times business development partners, right? I'm not saying referral partners on purpose, because to me, referral seems a little bit on the selfish side, the taking side of the relationship, not enough on the giving side. So just changing my language a little bit has helped me mentally shift from being in a taking mindset to a giving mindset. And part of the reason for that, again, it comes back to one of those old cliches that I know you've heard a million times, which is the law of caring says people won't care how much you know until they know how much you care. What does that really mean? They're concerned about themselves first. They want to know what's in it for them first. But there's another law of caring that's every bit as useful and as powerful when it comes to how do we approach agents and how do we make that connection happen. Well, the next step in the process is asking the question that I asked you earlier is, how do we know what we don't know? Well, the answer is there really isn't any way to know what we don't know. So the truth of the matter is we don't know what we don't know until someone cares enough to show us. So when we talk to agents about things that are right under their nose that they may not realize, for example, many of our coaching clients, we have in the habit of doing Monday morning lead booster follow-up calls. In other words, they're calling their agents every Monday morning and they're talking to them about, you know, hey, Mr. Agent, this is Erik. I just wanted to check in with you and see how things have been going the last couple of weeks. You and I talked about, you know, you need about 3 leads a week to be on pace with where you want to be income-wise. Just wanted to check in and see if you're on pace for where you want to be for October closings. Now, I asked that question, one of two things is going to happen. They're going to tell me they had a great week, they have a ton of leads because they had a rocking open house on Sunday, and then the next path is, okay, great. So what can you and I do to leverage each other's strengths, talent, and time to pull through on a few more of those leads at a higher percentage? What can we do to help you pull through some of those leads faster? On the flip side of that question, if they haven't had a great week from a lead generation or a lead capture standpoint, they're going to say, no, it was a little light this week. I sat in an open house, didn't run into a lot of people, blah, blah, blah. You know, it could have been better. Great. Well, what can we do this week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, to put you in front of some people who could benefit from selling or buying a home? Let's talk about it for a moment. See, now we've transformed that call from one where instead of just calling on Monday mornings to ask them about what new pre-quals they, you know, what new buyers they bumped into over the weekend and begging for pre-quals, we're turning it into a service-driven conversation where we really are asking them how to go to the next level. In other words, we're becoming a bit of that accountability partner or resource to them. In other words, we're helping them create accountability and we're helping them be proactive in lead generating the volume of leads they need on a weekly basis to achieve the income that they want to be making in October, November, December. And we all realize, and it's easy to lose sight of, but one thing we have to remember, especially in a purchase market, is what we do today doesn't typically pay off for another 60 to 90 days down the road. And when October 1st hits, it's pretty much too late to really do anything significant about our closing volume for October, right? Well, is it any different for the realtors? I mean, really, the leads they're generating this week, the buyers or sellers they're talking to now, are the contracts that go into place over the next 2 or 3 weeks that are the closings that happen late October to early November. So right now, their lead flow this week is determining their activity and their closing volume for November. And are they being proactive in that respect? See, one of the greatest ways that we could be an asset or resource to our business partners like realtors is to be that advisory resource, that accountability partner. I mean, a quasi-coach, if you will. I mean, think about it. What do all the top performers, let's look at the sporting world for just a minute. You know, the Wayne Jordans, the Wayne Gretzky's, the Michael Jordans, the Tom Brady's of the world, what do they all have in common? Well, they all had somebody who cared as much about their own success, if not more so than they did, that helped them power through the difficulties and challenges of growth in their skill, ability, and talent to be able to get to that level. So they all had somebody that would challenge them in a number of different ways. I mean, if you look at what is the mark of a good accountability partner, one, it's somebody who has credible knowledge that they can depend on. Two, it has that outside perspective, somebody who's just not in the busyness of everyday life, who can look at that. I mean, think about the top 10 realtors you know. I bet within a matter of 3 to 5 minutes of thinking about it that you could name the number one thing they need to change about their business to do 20% more volume. You know the agents that are distracted and disorganized and they're not disciplined enough. You know the agents that are reactive. You know the agents that could work on their front-end intake, lead generation, and sales skills. You know the agents who just aren't doing enough. In other words, they're waiting for deals to happen instead of making them happen. I mean, think about it. You have that outside perspective just because you're in the outside. You're on the outside. You're not in the day-to-day of it. You know, another layer of it is you keep them focused on steady progress when they get off track. You know, we brainstorm ideas all the time with agents that we'd like to do great marketing projects with. How often do they get done if we don't work together to build an accountability plan, to build a step-by-step and set benchmarks of what things need to be completed? Let's say I'm going to work with a real estate agent, an insurance agent, and a title company to host a local home opportunity workshop series. By the way, I'll mention a little bit why more I included those 3 additional individuals in just a moment, but the practical reality is there's a couple of steps that have to be taken care of to be able to pull off an effective and productive home opportunity workshop, right? We've got to find a venue, we've got to schedule the date and time, we've got to get a list of folks who are going to advertise it to, we've got to coordinate the advertising with enough time to create, to get people to show up for the event. We need to find a way of incentivizing them to want to attend, whether it's door prizes, raffle drawings, or something like that. You know, those are all elements of what we need to be doing proactively to generate more volume and to make that a successful home opportunity workshop. And those things need to be done with an action plan and some specific timelines associated with getting them done on time. If we do all those things and we do them in the appropriate timeline, we'll likely be very successful. Something that is very difficult for us to do all by ourselves, right? But probably one of the most important, most valuable assets and resources that we could provide to the business partner, development partners that we're seeking to attract and develop partnerships with you guys hearing me all right?
Yeah, you cut out there for a minute, but now you came back.
Got it. I just got a notice pop up on my screen that the audio connection had dropped, so I shifted over and picked it up real quick. Anyway, so long story short, I mean, one of the things that we could do that would be a great accountability resource is just being that running buddy, that accountability resource. I mean, you guys have heard me give the analogy before. If you haven't been on one of our webinars before, often I close with what I call the running buddy analogy. Think about it. How easy is it to fall off track after several days where it's cold and wet and nasty outside and you're sore and worn out and you don't want to go running? It's easy to hit the snooze button and never go jogging again. How much harder would it be if you had a running buddy who you knew was going to be on your doorstep? It's a lot harder to hit that snooze button and break that promise we made to somebody else versus the promise we made to ourselves about implementation and follow-through. So what it really comes down to is with our business development partners, how do we help them drive more purchase business? How do we drive more purchase business? Well, there's a couple of key conversations that we can have with agents that can be extremely valuable in helping them recognize, realize, and appreciate the fact that we can provide them significantly more value than the guy who's just being that vendor pitching, you know, great service, world-class customer service. I mean, keep in mind, I don't know what your experience has been. I don't really trust that. I mean, I remember last week sitting on hold with Sprint trying to see about ordering a new phone, and I'm sitting on hold for 15 minutes listening to their recurring commercial about how great their customer service rating is. And I'm going, really? I'm on hold for 15 minutes, and that's, you know, Zagat's best A-rating customer service? Seriously? But if we go beyond that level of transactional service, if we really want to truly become that asset and resource that's going to help them do significantly more business, let's talk about some of the challenges that agents are facing and experiencing. You know, in the poll question at the very beginning, you all indicated that, or the great majority of you indicated that one of the biggest challenges that our agents are facing is lack of inventory. What that creates as a side effect is that we have a lot of desperate buyers who are getting easily discouraged. They're rushing well ahead in the process, and they're not doing what they really need to do, which is to get a thorough, accurate, timely pre-approval right up front. Beyond that, how many times do agents spend a lot of time talking with and working with buyers who really can't buy because of the complexities of lending guidelines and the qualifying issues and how tight things are post-QM world? You know, there's an issue or challenge with that. So one of the first conversations we can have with the agents is talking to them about how we can help them save time and help them be more profitable and productive. I mean, the fact of the matter is, busy is often the enemy of productive. The busier we feel, more often than not, the less productive we are, just from a simple time management standpoint. I mean, David Allen said the #1 killer of productivity is reactivity. So just by talking to them about the value of the use of their time and how they should be investing their time more wisely and brainstorming with them different strategies, that's one way of doing it. By the way, there's two slightly different versions of this conversation. One is talking to them about the differences of a good lender versus a bad lender and the validation of the pre-approvals they're receiving and whether they're working with accurate pre-approvals that have actually done a thorough job of documenting whether the buyer really does make the income that they say they make and only are responsible for the debts that they say they have. That's one of those questions. The other one is thinking about just the time that a realtor would invest in a deal with a lender they don't know and can't trust, that is, and that's more of that transactional element of the conversation. But if we take it to a whole other level, the end purpose of this conversation is, Mr. Agent, can you really afford to spend time on buyers who really aren't 100% ready to buy? If not, let us do some of that filtering for you. Let us sort out who's ready, who's not. Let us incubate who could get ready over time and bring them back to you when they are. And let's get you in position to be more competitive at time of offer so that when you are presenting your buyer's offer against several others, how I can help you have a higher percentage win rate on getting your buyer accepted. Well, one of the tools I've recently come across, and this is something I'm very thoroughly investigating and deeply engaging with, there's a new system out there called Guaranteed Mortgage Quote, which is just one step beyond what I've been teaching our coaching clients to do for years, which is to make sure that they're doing a fully verified, fully documented pre-approval review. Don't just trust the borrower with what they tell you on the phone. Actually verify it. Get some imperial documentation that supports that they do, in fact, make what they say that they make, so you can give an accurate, thorough, and appropriate pre-approval review so that you are a true asset to your realtor in helping your realtor make sure that they are not spending time on anything other than valid buyers who are really ready to buy. And let's get them all the way through that pre-approval process. And by the way, if you do happen to work at or with lenders who give you the opportunity to do preliminary underwrites without property, and you can actually issue an underwriter review approval prior to, contingent upon property issues, you can help put your buyer in a much stronger position when it comes to negotiating. There's one other step you can do beyond that, which is actually pick up the phone and call the listing agents when offers are being presented and talk to that listing agent about the merits of our buyer, which means that our buyers are going to be able to get into contract more easily, and that agents will spend less time wasted on writing offers and preparing and showing property to buyers who end up losing out to somebody who's in a little bit stronger position. By the way, if you're interested in more information about the Guaranteed Mortgage Quote system, I'd hope to have a webinar, a website ready for you to be able to just hop to and drop in your name and information. In lieu of that, if you're interested in finding out more about the Guaranteed Mortgage Quote system, which actually is the money-back guarantee of a pre-approval review, it uses as a trademarked and patented system for evaluating the merit of a buyer. It's all web-based. It's a very efficient and easy to outsource process for originators, and it's very cost-effective. It's very affordable based on the amount of the cost per quote. If you're interested in finding out more about that, please just let me know that you're interested in the Guaranteed Mortgage Quote. That you're interested in getting more information about Guaranteed Mortgage Quote, or speaking with myself or one of my team or one of the folks at Guaranteed Mortgage Quote about that system or solution. But moving beyond that, what it really comes down to is, as a resource, being the asset that's going to help that agent do significantly more business, we can now confidently say to them, because we talk to them about these things, that we are going to protect their time. We're going to help them be more efficient and make more money in less time by only working with approved buyers, and then nurturing or incubating over time the buyers that aren't quite ready. Because we all know that buyers fall into one of a couple of different buckets. Out of every 10 buyers we talk to, 1 or 2 fall into the ready to go right away. Within a matter of a couple of days, we've got a fully documented file, and we're ready to issue a solid pre-approval letter. The second group of folks is the questionable, or, they need to be vetted more thoroughly. They need to probably go all the way through the underwriting process before we let them get out in the market and start aggressively shopping for property. The third bucket is the ones that, they have minor qualifying obstacles, the stuff that just needs to be incubated over time, just no different than putting, eggs in the incubator so that you can hatch some chickens, if you're familiar with farming at all. You know what I'm talking about. If you're not, call me and we'll explain it. Anyway, long story short, the next element of this is, okay, so, how do we take it to the next level? What do we do to work with those bucket 3 leads and bring them back? Well, another option is, and this is the third option of how we can help them drive time, is we're going to help them capture more business. When we talk to agents about how we can be the asset and resource that can make them look really, really good, because we can promote them when they hand us a referral or when we refer them, one of the things that we're going to be able to do is we're going to be able to endorse them and promote that they're able to help them capture more business. So when it comes to endorsement, it's how do we help them get more business, and what tools, resources, or materials can we provide that help them look better and be stronger and more attractive to potential buyers or sellers when they're at that first point of contact, front end point of sale. Well, like for example, what if we have a really cool mortgage app that also allows them to use as a real estate app, where our app can become their app? That creates a whole different level of professionalism and credibility. And when we endorse those agents and we talk to those agents about, at the end of the day, the value of an agent is, Mr. Customer, when you're talking to buyers, you're talking to borrowers about the whole idea of the fact of the matter is, Mr. Borrower, an agent is one of the most valuable assets that you could have in the home search process. A skilled, knowledgeable, professional real estate advisor is somebody who has superior knowledge of the market. They are a full-time agent who focuses effectively on generating more volume. I'm sorry. Misstepped word there. Somebody who really does have a superior knowledge of the market and is a skilled negotiator is going to be able to save you a tremendous amount of time and energy and effort in the search process. And as a result, there's one step further you can go with that, is you can empower them to become your agent who can negotiate on your behalf and increase the likelihood that you're going to be able to get a better deal overall. Or when an agent refers us, we are able to talk to them about, talk to that buyer about the value of a strong professional agent who is a true professional who takes things to a completely different level, like including the fact that they provide you easy, efficient, and active and accessible tools like mortgage apps that help you greatly reduce the amount of time that they're going to spend in the search process. By the way, one of the other advantages of using a great mortgage app, and by the way, my friends at Simple Nexus have opened up the door and offered to provide a free consultation to anybody who's interested in finding out more about their app and why it's a great asset. By the way, there's some cross-sell marketing and push notifications that we're working on developing with the folks at Simple Nexus that are going to help with lead follow-up and lead capture, even at the initial search level when an agent is, because, I mean, think about it. The dynamic of how people search for real estate has changed dramatically over the last 10 years. People don't go to open houses as frequently anymore. People don't decide they're going to spend a Sunday afternoon shopping for a home, and after church they stop at the gas station and grab a paper and circle. They spend 30 minutes in the car looking at the map and where these properties are sitting. They get on the internet or on their phone and Google the property they're looking for in the area they're looking for it. And agents are being every bit commoditized as we on the origination side are in today's market. By giving these agents an edge that they can advertise on their Zillow site, their Trulia, their Realtor.com, their individual property listing websites, the things that are popping up when buyers are doing Google searches, if we're giving them efficient access and cost-effective access to technology that's going to help them significantly increase their capture and conversion ratio, then we're generating significantly more volume. The second thing, and probably the last thing that we can do, and by the way, like I said, if you're interested in more information about the Simple Nexus program, I think their subscription rate for individual user accounts is like $29 or $39 a month, and you can give it to an unlimited number of agents who can then turn it into their app, which is a great way of getting your foot in the door with realtors. Beyond that, if you're looking at maybe a corporate level solution, they are open to giving you a free consultation. You can contact them. Again, you're more than welcome to just go ahead and drop that information into the Q&A section of the platform. Just let us know you'd be interested in one of those Simple Nexus consultations. And please do indicate in your comments in the Q&A that you'd like more information about Simple Nexus and how to get started, and they'll get you taken care of on that. So the last step is, how do we help boost more lead flow for agents? How do we go into a mode where we are actively seeking and helping them mine for additional opportunities? Well, there's a host of different tools and strategies that we can do to increase lead flow. And in the interest of time, I'm going to try and skip through a few things with you and give you a couple of key nuggets of an idea. But, I mean, long story short, lead generation is a lot like fishing. There's more than one way to do it. You can fish with a rod and reel, but there's a lot of things that can go wrong that keep that fish in the water instead of getting them in the boat. And if you're talking about feeding a family, maybe there's a better way. Maybe the more reliable way of bringing in the amount of fish you need, the poundage of fish on a daily, weekly basis, is more consistently done by fishing with a net. You're bringing in a larger volume. Yes, you're going to have to filter out the ones that aren't ready, or the things that are, the discarded, the spare tire, or the discarded rubber boot. But you've got a much higher probability of capturing a higher volume of fish. Well, what if you could fish with a net this size, right? A commercial level operation. But could you do that by yourself? Well, some of the ways that we are able to do that, some of the ideas and strategies that Greg was going to share with you kind of go to that. I mean, he did a presentation for me down in New Orleans back in July at the Ultimate Mortgage Expo, where he did 10 tips for getting more loans. Well, 5 of them I thought were just absolutely brilliant when it came to creating more synergy and being a better asset resource and partner to realtors. And so let's just rip through them really quickly. First one is a Just Listeds campaign. All day long there's brand new listings that are popping up. Sellers are buyers a great majority of the time. National Association of Realtors statistics indicate that as high as 80% of the population that lists a property for sale will be buying property again within 30 miles, within 30 days, a little better than 70% of the time. So there's a huge opportunity to capture buyers that may be getting lost because most agents really don't do a great job of what we would call triple ending a sale, getting the seller's next purchase. It's a lot easier for us to do that on behalf of our agents than it is for them to do it for themselves, which is another really good reason for them to introduce us to their sellers at the time of the listing, which is what creates this, what we call the selling the seller strategy. So, which is, by the way, there's kind of 2 tips in one here. The selling the seller strategy is getting our agents to introduce us to the sellers that they've just listed property with so that we can do a mortgage planning overview or a session with that seller and make sure that seller is really prepared to buy. And it kind of goes back to the timeline and complexity of, do they really want to send their seller out looking for property without having gone through the thorough pre-approval process? Because otherwise they're going to find themselves getting caught between a rock and a hard place, because their property is going to sell quickly, and yet they may find it a little difficult to find the next property, and they're going to be stuck with that timeline issue, right? The other thing that we can do is we can help them own the community and own the neighborhood. The more involved we can be in wide, broad-scale community initiatives like the home opportunity initiatives and home opportunity workshops that I mentioned a few minutes ago, I mean, think about it. Why did I mention an insurance agent as a great resource partner in doing a home opportunity campaign? What a lot of people in our industry used to refer to as a first-time homebuyer campaign. Well, the reason for that is because the insurance agent, and I'm talking, traditional home and auto insurance agents, property casualty agents, right? Well, the reality of those guys is they've got massive databases. An insurance agent typically only makes 10 to 20% of the annual premium of that policy. So a homeowner's policy or an auto-only insurance policy that's a $1,000 a year premium is only paying that insurance agent $100 a month, a year. They got to have literally thousands of policyholders if they're going to be a profitable insurance agency. So in that huge database, they have a lot of people who are likely not already homeowners. By the way, don't say renters to insurance agents. It's kind of a turnoff. Most agents don't like writing renters policies, and if you say the word renter, all they tend to think of is the people who hold renters policies with them. Just a little tip I learned over the years. If you talk about non-homeowners or auto-only policy holders, you'll probably get a little bit further with that conversation. Now, the question is, if you've got an insurance agent who has 1,000 customers in his database, likelihood is probably 300 to 400, 30 to 40% of that customer base are non-homeowners. And what would be the value of, over the course of 12 months, helping 10% of those 300 to 400 families become homeowners through a strategic marketing initiative and homeowner education initiative. Well, that's one of those areas where you become, you're able to create internal champions or raving fans for the service that you provide, which is another key tip that Greg influences and references. And one of the things he talks about or he was going to share with you, were he able to be here today, is how do you frequently and consistently engage your clients throughout the process, multiple times through the course of a normal loan transaction, where you're identifying those key opportunities to mine for positive feedback, asking customer service surveys over the phone, doing a midpoint customer service review and asking for feedback and testimonials along the way that you can talk about, and then taking it one step further and talking to those buyers at the time that they're in the process of doing a loan with you about who else they know that may be in a position to benefit from a home. Now, by the way, the reason we ask who questions is thinking about from the perspective of who instead of do. I mean, psychologically, our brains are pretty amazing things. They're kind of pre-programmed to bring to our attention what we're already thinking about or follow fairly pre-programmed patterns of thinking. So if I ask you a do question, like, do you know the name of your best friend, you're going to tell me a yes or no. If I ask you who is your best friend, your brain is going to be trying to tell me who is your best friend. And if you have many friends, it might be trying to filter through, sort, and prioritize who is the best friend, right? So no different when it comes to asking for referrals. If I ask a customer who, let's say I'm doing a loan for a customer, and we get their approval, and I call them to do a congratulations call at time of approval, and I'm giving them a nice gift basket at time of approval, which is another main strategy that Greg teaches that I know he would share with you were he here. The reality is, if I ask the question, do you know anybody who could benefit from buying a home, or do you know anybody who needs a loan, maybe 1 out of 15 or 1 out of 20 would give me a name. The other 14 out of 15 are going to tell me no, they really don't know anybody, because nobody is immediately top of mind, correct? However, if I ask a customer, who do you know that's in a position to benefit from the current market affordability and an improvement to their housing situation, their brain's going to start looking for and thinking about the information that I give them to try and give me a specific name, right? So when I talk to buyers, and even at the initial pre-approval consultation, my coaching clients are doing this consistently even before they're in a contract, at that first initial meeting where they're taking their pre-approval and going through the pre-approval consultation. At the end of that conversation, when I've created a lot of value for that customer, I'm able to go in and ask them very specifically, well, Mr. Customer, as you have probably seen, I'm pretty passionate about the home affordability and the opportunities that are available in the current market. Unfortunately, there's a lot of folks out there that are just completely oblivious to how much buying power they really have. And as a result of that, we've launched an initiative we call the Home Opportunity Initiative. It's like a customer service campaign type of a community service benefit campaign. And we'd really like to enlist your help in maybe helping identify some of the folks you know that might be in position to benefit but may not be aware of it. So let me ask you something really quick, Mr. Buyer. Who do you know that has a stable job and they pay their bills on time, but they've been renting the same place the last couple of years? Who do you know that's maybe outgrown their current home? For example, they bought an entry-level starter home a couple of years ago, maybe back in 08 or 07, and they've now had 2 or 3 additional children, and it's obvious they're busting at the seams in that tiny little starter house, but they haven't upgraded for whatever reason. More than likely, it's because they don't think they can afford to. I mean, here's the practical reality of it. Interest rates are roughly 2% better than they were the majority of the period from 2008 to 2002, which means that it's likely that many of those families have the ability to buy upwards of 20% more house for the same payment. So as you move forward and as you start thinking about, looking at, listening for what they say that might trigger an indication that your friends, family, and colleagues are in position to benefit, when they start saying like they're running out of space, their rent is too high, they just got married, they're, things are going rough, they're getting a divorce, they're seeing other people in the market buy, they're wondering if it makes sense. They're tired of renting and people controlling their life and what they can or can't do in their apartment. We're expecting. These are all life events that trigger somebody having an opportunity to improve their housing situation. So as we go through this type of conversation, the next step in this is thinking about how we leverage this into a conversation with an agent. And I know I'm bouncing around a little bit because I'm trying to zip through a ton of information. And keep in mind, this is stuff we cover in a 15-hour training program that I'm going to introduce you to in just a minute. But the practical reality is you talk to agents about what you do, that you actively mine for additional opportunities. During every transaction that we have in place, there are 6 or 7 key opportunities through the course of a normal loan transaction where we have that opportunity to, to talk to our customers and inspire them to want to reach out to the people they know in their sphere of influence, their circle of close friends, about identifying who they know. I mean, the end goal being that we can identify 5 to 7 people who might benefit, connect with 1 or 2 of them, and replace every loan we've got with 1 or 2 additional loans. Now, the fact that we have a systematic and consistent process in place to do that at those several different stages during the course of a transaction where we have those naturally positive interactions with borrowers, does it work every time? No, but does it work a significant enough percentage of the time that it's well worth continuing to do? Absolutely. I mean, the practical reality is if we did this alone, we would likely be able to replace every deal we had with at least half as many deals the following month. And it creates a self-perpetuating cycle of growth. And when we talk to agents about that, then it's very easy to say to them at the end of a consultative conversation, Mr. Agent, at the end of the day, our goal here is to use that system in every opportunity we have. Unfortunately, we don't have the opportunity to use this tool on deals we don't have the privilege of working with. So at the end of the day, Mr. Agent, what does it cost you not to at least give me a shot at talking to your buyers, even if they might be pre-approved with somebody else? If I could just help you catch 1 or 2 additional deals out of every 2 or 3 we work, that's a 30 to 40% increase in your closing volume over the next 12 months. Would that be valuable to you? We talked then about how we could implement those sign-up systems systematically, and it becomes a geometric progression or an exploding growth model. Every 1 buyer leads us to 2 more, who leads us to 4 and 8, 16, and it just goes on and explodes from there. So what's really the next steps here? What do we do as we move this conversation forward with agents? Well, one is we have to have a plan for the conversation. And that's kind of where the Power Partner Development System comes in. It's an N-key, turnkey system that walks them through the 5 key phases of development that builds that strategic partnership and creates that loyalty, commitment, and engagement that turns into a significantly higher flow of business over a much shorter period of time. And it all the way from how you approach agents all the way through to the committed and recycling flow of new volume. Now, I'm just about done with the presentation part of our program. There's a couple of quick things that I wanted to wrap up with and introduce you to just before we jump to the Q&A, but then I've got about 20 minutes here where I'll hang out and we'll make sure we answer as many of your questions as we possibly can. Many of you have been asking the question already, though I've been seeing posted in the Q&A, what exactly is this maximum acceleration thing? Are you selling race cars or what? No, we're a professional coaching organization. We're dedicated to whatever we have to do. I mean, our only goal is getting our clients from where they are to where they want to go faster. And the way that we do that is through 3 different service levels that we offer. We have a library of home study courses available for an on-demand purchase. It's a video training, virtual coaching type of program where it walks you through in video, step by step, how to do these specific learning exercises that we work our clients through in a home study environment. It's all the tools and resources you need to be able to work it through. Of course, you have to dedicate the time to do it on your own, but That's up to you. The second level is we offer group and on-site programs, keynotes at sales rallies and events like that. We can customize an event for you if you're interested. We have a sales rally in a box type program. We also have virtual group coaching program where we do live webinars, groups of no more than 8 clients at a time in a group coaching environment, which creates a little bit of that masterminding effect. And then, of course, we offer one-on-one personal coaching. Now, if you're interested, one of the home study course programs that we have available is what we call the Double Your Income with Power Partners. It is a turnkey system that teaches you step by step. It's about 7 hours of video. It'll actually take you about 12 to 15 hours to work all the way through it in the home study course environment, but it teaches you this end-to-end system. It really is a turnkey system for rapid growth with your purchase partners in every phase of the process, from approach to commitment to engagement and to lead flow. And that program is available if you're interested. We've in the past sold it for as high as $695. We're offering it today for as little as $297. And actually, I'll give you one step further. If you go to our shopping cart page on our website, you can click on the shopping cart, or you can go to mxlcoach.com/shop.html and then go into the products page, the Double Your Income web shop series. If you use discount code DOUBLEMAX or DBLMAX, all capital letters, you can save an additional $50. If you're interested in any of the other group coaching, live event, keynote, or sales rally in a box programs or one-on-one coaching, your next step is to then call our team and ask for what we call a strategy session. It's just a one-on-one session with one of our team members. You'll get a specific action plan and strategy for, you'll actually experience the coaching process, get a little bit of a taste of what it could do for you, and then from there we'll talk a little bit about what makes the most sense for the next steps. So with that being said, if you're interested in one of those strategy sessions, please go ahead and just post in the Q&A, one of your questions, and then, of course, if you're interested in one of those strategy sessions, just go ahead and post that you'd like one of the coaching strategy sessions in the Q&A platform right now, and we'll go ahead and get ready to take some Q&A questions right now. One of the questions that I saw come through, and somebody posted the question about the, can you show us what to listen for on slides again? Just by the way, just a general reference for everybody on the call, we are going to be providing a copy of the PDF for the slides for today's program and the video recording. It will take our team a couple of days to pull that together. The reason for that is there's a lot of post-production editing work that has to be done, and we have to transcode the process, the video, into a format that'll stream. But by the end of the day, Monday, you should have an email in your inbox that has those slides, and you're welcome to look at them. And again, if we have time, I'll get back to it. All right. So the next step of the process here is looking at the interested in the coaching set. All right. All right, so one of the questions that I want to try and address here is, okay, you're going to a bunch of open houses this weekend. Can you give me a quick few sentences pitch that you'd use to a new realtor? Okay, so Doug is the person who asked that question. Here would be my response. Go all the way back to some of what I talked about at the very, very beginning. If I can be the key asset or resource that helps them do significantly more business, can I create an expectation of, or at least enough curiosity about, how to shift from being that vendor versus that advisor that I can get a one-on-one meeting with them? Part of that is you need to know what your commitment and objectives are. I mean, meeting an agent at an open house, especially if it's a busy open house, they're not going to jump in bed with you right now. Think about dating analogy for a second. You know, you meet a cute girl at a networking event, and you want to date her. It's a little unrealistic to ask her to jump in bed with you that evening, or to run to the church and get married tomorrow morning, right? You've got to court that relationship a little bit. So your commitment objective when you're meeting somebody at an open house is you want to create immediate differentiation and separation between you and the other 5,000 loan officers who are banging down their door every day. And the way that you do that is by setting up the expectation that you want to be a lot more than just a vendor. So, like, for example, talking to them about, at the end of the day, Mr. Agent, I'm a little bit different than most loan officers because at the end of the day, just getting your deals done, giving you accurate and timely pre-approvals, those are just the basic job requirements. If I can't do that at a minimum, I don't deserve your business. But what I seek to do that goes above and beyond what the typical loan officer typically provides is I want to be a true asset, resource, and partner in your success. I want to be the guy who not just gets your deals done, but helps you get substantially more deals. I mean, I'm talking going from 1 or 2 deals a month to 3 or 4 deals a month, practically doubling your business in 6 to 12 months. I mean, I've got some great ideas and suggestions. I've got some things that I'm always looking for, concepts and ideas, and I'd love to get together and brainstorm something with you about, what we could potentially do together. Tell you what, why don't you let me take you out to lunch? Now, of course, if the open house is completely dead and they've got nothing better to do than sit around and stare at the wall for 2 hours, then maybe you can go a little bit deeper in talking about some of the ideas and strategies and things that I've introduced in this webinar. I mean, even just going over these basic 4 ways of how we help them drive purchase business, 1, the value of time conversation, how we can save them money by giving them more timely, accurate, and effective pre-approval tools and only allowing them to have to work with buyers who are really ready to buy. We can incubate leads and bring back a whole bank of future opportunities, because if only 1 or 2 out of 10 are ready to go right now, but 4 to 6 out of 10 could get ready in the next 6 to 12 months, and we were bringing those 6 to 12 leads back to them, it wouldn't be that hard to help them double their business over the course of a year. And of course, the endorsement and edification elements, and then the opportunity mining, the active opportunity mining using the who questions consistently, is a great way of helping them generate more volume. Working with them to be more effective at helping them capture the purchase on the for their seller moving into his next home. Offering a home opportunity review is another way we could do it. I mean, these are all different strategies and ideas that we work with and teach our clients all the time to help them identify and be more proactive in their marketing to generate the volume of business that they need for the winter. So that being said, there's a whole lot of other opportunities and resources out there that we can help provide them, and just having that conversation that you want to be the asset and resource that's going to help them do significantly more business is how you're transforming that relationship into one of transformational value. So, okay, so the question is just clarification here. Ryan asked the question, your prospect just listed, you mean call on realtors that have active listings or find a way to solicit the listed seller directly? How do you do the listed prospecting? Okay, so Ryan, in answer to your question, and this was a thing I frequently talk about in this type of a program if I'm doing it as a 90-minute keynote presentation. I have a little bit more time to work with than we had in today's webinar format, but often I'll talk about what we call the home opportunity review, which is similar to how a financial planner offers like a free retirement planning review, or maybe you've seen commercials talking about like rolling over a 401k from a previous company into an IRA, and financial planners for dozens of years have been using that as a front-end lead capture tool. And so when we're calling the seller, I mean, first of all, seller's information is public record information. If you've got an address, you can look them up in the phone book, or Google that address, or pull a copy of the listing sheet from the MLS, or search for that real estate address on Realtor.com or Homes.com or one of those other e-marketing websites. More often than not, you can probably Google it, find that seller's name and phone number. Again, of course, you would want to scrub it against the do not call list, but you're basically calling the just listeds and offering them a free home opportunity evaluation. At the end of the day, Mr. Customer, home affordability is at an all-time high. However, it is a bit of a challenging market, as we often are finding that buyers are in a competitive bid situation when they when they're making offers on property, and it's something that takes a little bit of time, energy, and preparation to be prepared to be competitive when you get out shopping. Beyond that, we want to make sure that the mortgage plan is structured to meet your long-term financial goals and objectives as well as your short income goals. So we offer a very efficient process called a home opportunity review, and we'd love to be able to offer that to you, Mr. Seller, if you're interested. Of course, there's no cost or obligation for the service. It's just something we feel is the right thing to do in what can be a challenging market for home sellers. If you're interested, great. If not, no big deal. Do you have a few minutes to get started? I mean, it's a very soft, very service-oriented, giving, first type approach where you're creating something that's a value that taps in directly with what they care about and what they're concerned about that generates that kind of volume and flow for them. All right, one other quick question. Let's see if we've got time for any more questions here. Do you have material for CE for Realtors? Yes, we do have some libraries of resources. Steve, if you want to contact us directly. Okay, question. Glenn asked the question, if the average age of Realtors is 58, what do you think the likelihood they'll embrace a mobile app? Well, whether they like it or not, they may have to, or they're going to be forced out of the industry. I mean, I really do believe that being on the front of mobile marketing is an important business strategy right now. Okay, so I mean, the reality is I mean, think about how the importance of a website as a mortgage professional has evolved over the last 15 years. 15 years ago, it was a snazzy thing to do that separated you, and it was really a powerful credibility tool if you were the 1 out of 500 people who had a website. Today, you're not a professional if you don't have a website. If people can't find you on the internet, you're a nobody. And there was a recent study I heard, and I wish I had caught the source of the actual study, but I heard a speaker once recently share that 73% of home buyers referred to realtors, or referred to loan officers. By the way, I apologize. Every once in a while, brain and voice don't communicate effectively. It's part of having multiple sclerosis here. But anyway, the statistic I heard is that 73% of buyers will Google a loan officer first, even if referred by an agent. It caught me off guard a little bit, but think about how much credibility people place on online reviews these days. And and so my answer to your question, I know it's a little bit of a long way around to it, Glenn, but the reality is it went from having a website to email marketing to Facebook and social media to blogging to apps. And mobile apps are the way people think, react, and search in today's environment, and it is the wave of the future. Not to say it won't be replaced 15 or 10 years from now by something else, but as important as a website, I mean, as important as a website is today is how important a mobile app will be 3 to 5 years from now. And if you're not on the cutting edge of that, you're going to get forced out, and your agents will too. All right, so one other quick question. Chuck asked the question, do we coach realtors? Yes, we do. All right, another question here. Only 10% of realtors are worth calling on in the first place. Got to qualify the ones that are worth our time and effort. Double of zero is still zero. Get agents that are doing 4 deals per month to begin with. Excellent comment, Ryan. Part of the Double Your Income with Power Partners system is about filtering and being productive and focused in our energy. The reality is, though, there's still a lot of hidden potential. I mean, some of my most successful, when I did the year I did 237 purchase transactions, the majority of that volume came from 13 key business partners that I worked with, 9 of which were real estate agents. The other 4 were financial planners, CPAs, or other local influential business owners and people who are active in the local chamber of commerce. But anyway, of those 13 partners, of those 9 realtors that I worked with, 4 or 5 of them were agents who were only doing 4 or 5 buy sites a year before I started working with them. But they had lots of potential. They had great work ethic. 2, they were full-time committed professionals. 3, they wanted to grow in the market and they were open to ideas and they were hungry for new ideas, strategies, and approaches to how to grow the business faster instead of some of the old run-of-the-mill, dime a dozen, dialing for dollars, neighborhood farming type stuff. Okay. Let's see, a couple other questions that we may have time for here. I'm just searching through.
You might have to wrap up soon, Eric. I'm sorry.
Understood. Yeah, I know we get in a roll with these things, and I love, you know, there's just so much information. Like I said, we're trying to condense down what is effectively a, you know, a 15-hour course into a 60-minute presentation, in effect, and so it becomes a little bit challenging. Like I said, don't forget, if you're interested in being able to take advantage of that double your income with Power Partners home study course material, you can go on our website, mxlcoach.com, go to the shopping tab on the menu bar, and then go to the click here button. And you can go ahead and get a $50 discount using the discount code DoubleMax. Otherwise, there's one last thing I want to leave all with you with. I know there's a few additional questions in here that I will get to, and I will make sure our team follow up with. But you guys have invested a little over an hour of your time at this stage of the game. There's still several hundred of you online here. The last thing I want to encourage all of you to do is, one, you've gotten some great ideas, strategies, and tools that we shared and presented with you today. The worst thing you could do is not do something with them. I mean, ideas without action are useless. They only become valuable if they're applied. So what I want you to do as first step is decide what was the one most valuable thing you heard me share today that you want to make sure gets implemented. You'll have the recordings to refer back to and pick up a couple of other ideas later, but let's just focus on one for now. What's the one most valuable idea you want to make sure gets implemented? 2, what action do you need to take to make that a part of your business consistently? What is the next step in getting that idea implemented? You know, maybe it's scheduling some time to map out and outline what are the conversation strategies you heard me share and create a bullet-pointed review of it and do some role-play and practice for yourself. 3rd, by when will you have that action implemented? Set a specific target date for completion on that action item so that you can get the most likelihood of success in following through on it. And then 4th, decide who's going to be your accountability partner. The reason I share this is because at the end of the day, you know, we've done a tremendous amount of research and development work, and we're constantly looking at how to accelerate the learning and growth process. And one of the things that we came across a couple of years ago was that in 1998, Brigham Young University did a research study, and it was basically, how do you make sure ideas get implemented? You guys can read the slide. But basically, the study realized that there were 4 key things you needed to do. If you did those 4 things, you'd have a 95% chance of making sure your ideas got implemented. The 4 key things were: 1, you need to have a clear goal. 2, you need to have a written action plan for achieving that goal. 3, you need to have a target completion date for achieving that goal. And 4th, you need somebody to hold you accountable and check your progress towards that goal as that accountability date approaches, or that target completion date approaches. You do those 4 things, you have a 95% chance of getting that idea implemented. So the last question to ask in this planning process is, who are you going to ask to hold you accountable? Who are you going to share that action plan and target completion date with? You know, whether it's a professional coach, whether it is a boss, whether it is a mentor, whether it is a colleague, maybe even some friendly competition in the office, you know, find somebody that you trust, that you respect, that is consistent and has a pattern of being responsible enough that you can tell them what you plan on doing and by when you're planning on completing it, and ask them to check in with you and follow up with you regularly as you approach that deadline. You do that, you have a 95% chance of completion. Of course, if there's anything my team here at Maximum Acceleration can do to help or support you in that goal, please don't hesitate to ask. Our only goal is helping you get from where you are to where you want to go as fast as humanly possible. So, to that end, you know, if we have just a few more seconds, Beverly, just before you cut us loose, if you don't mind, folks, go ahead and post in the Q&A section of the platform any additional questions here. We'll give you about let's call this last call. Can we give them about 2 more minutes just to post any final questions in the in the Q&A section of the webinar here, webinar platform. Again, if you would like one of those strategy sessions that I mentioned a few minutes ago to find out a little bit more about the on-site, the group coaching or the one-on-one coaching, please go ahead and go to amexcoach.com/strategy, or you're probably even better would be to just go ahead and post in the Q&A at this time that you would like one of those coaching strategy sessions. Like I said, in fact, if you want to go ahead and just even post the best phone number and email address for us, our team, to be able to get a hold of you and schedule that appointment, that would be awesome. That way, they are filled on a first-come, first-served basis. We only have a handful of them available every week based on our coaching staff loads and current client levels. So, if you want to make sure that you get one of those strategy sessions scheduled soon, go ahead and post that in the Q&A right now. Otherwise, Beverly, I think we're pretty well ready to go. Give me like one more second if you don't mind here. Okay, guys, last call for any questions, and then I know that Beverly's going to be shutting us down here and kicking us off the platform momentarily.
Yep, I'm going to give you another minute. At this time, I just want to thank everyone for attending. I know you're all busy, you have busy schedules. Thank you for taking the time out of your day. And thank you, Erik, for providing such valuable information. As always, we always enjoy your presentations. So just going to give you another minute or two to submit your Q&A, and then we're going to have to close up the call.
All right. Wow. Lots of posts coming through still. My word. Lots of fun stuff going on. Well, thanks again, Beverly, for a great program. Thanks again for giving me the opportunity. I know it did come up on fairly short notice, but I always enjoy working with you guys. You're a great team to cooperate with. And for those of you who are not already NMP readers, it really is one of the best trade publications out there. It's the one I do read, particularly your online stuff. I travel so much, it's a lot easier for me to capture the online, but I love the fact that you guys always link back to the full published previous journal with that PDF reader thing. I don't know how you do that. I'd love to find that technology. Oh, man. Anyway, but you guys really do have a good thing going. And so for all of you listening, if you're not already a subscriber of NMP, it would be a great opportunity to join. And so anyway, you can go to their, well, Beverly, how do people sign up for your online newsletter?
They can go to our website. It's nationalmortgageprofessional.com, and in the top right, there is a place for you to sign up for the NMP Daily and NMP Ticker, and for the e-editions, the online editions. Awesome.
Cool, cool, cool. Well, like I said, part of the reason is I noticed we had a number of folks on here that I'm pretty sure would not be already subscribers to your magazine, because I recognize them from some of the events I did up in Oregon a couple of weeks ago and stuff like that. So anyway, all right. So are we ready to pretty much close this thing out? Have we gotten all the comments and questions that we need in the? Have they all come through yet?
Yeah, it looks like it's been a few minutes since we got one, so I think we can close it out.
Okay. I'm all set on my end. If you want to go ahead and go ahead and get ready to shut us off. There's one other favor, by the way, Beverly, one slight change in plan. I fell asleep at the wheel when it came to starting the recording. I realized about 10 minutes into the presentation that I did not have the recording on. So if you wouldn't mind, if you could send me and Lynn a copy of the recording. Do you have Lynn's email address?
I do. Not a problem. I can definitely do that.
Okay. And obviously, the files are a little bit too large to be sent via via email, so we'll need to do like a Dropbox solution or something like that.
I have Dropbox, so that's fine.
Perfect. Perfect. And your system is set up to transcode it out of the GoToMeeting format into the
make it a which format would you prefer?
Oh, I mean, just the standard WMV format is fine.
I usually do.
Okay, great. All right, cool. Well, thank you again for a wonderful event, and I'll catch up with you guys later today or earlier tomorrow, and we'll go from there.
Sounds good. Have a great weekend.
You too. Enjoy.